Go.
Jimmy on the pod, solo act, no quitting. Madhouse bar talk, where the drinks stay spitting. Views going wild like a monkey gone rogue, running his own lane in a circus of smoke. Guido hit the eject, dipped out the scene. Jimmy steered the chaos, kept it lean and mean, no co-pilot needed. He thrives in the clash, controversies, the stash, raking views with a dash. Madness on the mic, sipping truth like it's gin. Every episode's a fight, who's the champ of the spin? Randoms on the stool, spill tales from the void. Jimmy plays the villain, but the people stay buoyed. Solo flight, no wingman, just the heat. Questions unscripted, got him squirming the seat. Joe Rogan whispers, but Jimmy got roar. Clickbait machetes hacking straight to the core. Bar feels alive when the topics get steamy. Listeners keep clicking saying this fool's dreamy. Drama be the fuel, chaos be the plan. Welcome to the Madhouse, hosted by one madman.
All right, here we are. We're going to do a daytime podcast with Representative Miller, Joe Miller. From Amherst, right?
Yeah, good to be here. I do yield from Amherst and worked my way back there after quite a few years. But yeah.
Where'd you go? What do you mean?
So, well, of course, many of us, we leave home and then realize how great the area that we came from is, and we end up back there. But no, I went to Amherst schools and did a short time out in the Catholic schools for a few years to get my stuff together, I guess. And
you taught in Catholic school?
No, actually,
you went to Catholic
student for middle school. You know, those great years where you're trying to figure out how to handle puberty and just friends and people. And so my parents were like, "Hey, I think Catholic school would be great." So they put me in Catholic school and forgot that it was really probably my brother that was causing most of the chaos, and they couldn't take me away from him. But shout out to my brother. But so I left after going 2 years working my way through community college. I went out to the BGSU. I always joke around Bowling Green State University. Loved it there, got my degree, and then left for Texas because that was where you could find a job and in education, because at that time in the early 90s, Ohio was probably in the top 5 best public education states, which meant everybody wanted a job to teach here.
Really? We were top 5 in the 90s?
We were up there. Oh, we were rocking. Ohio was great.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but don't worry. We found a way to do a race to the bottom, and where we probably one of the reasons why I'm in the job I'm in now, because I was so fed up with policies and stuff that were happening
in the school board.
In the schools. Well, not really as much in the school boards, because those are people coming from the community. People know them, see them on the block. Neighbors have immediate access to them. They can make sure that things don't go too crazy or sideways at the local level. But it was the state policies that were really coming down and train wrecking public schools. So, and I noticed it. And then I worked my way back. Sorry, I'm slapping the microphone around here. But I worked my way back and eventually brought my wife and one child back to Amherst, where we settled in on the south side of Amherst and been there since January of 08. Yeah, It's been a while.
All right.
So, yeah. And
then you taught here. Where'd you teach here?
Okay, so I went down and taught in Texas for 3 years, too, outside of Houston. Kind of like I'd say Brazos County was kind of like Lorain County. It was right next to Houston. Like Lorain County is right next to Cuyahoga County and Cleveland. And I taught there for 2 years in an alternative school, which is basically alternative to jail or juvenile.
Okay.
Kids that were getting in trouble.
And what was that program called? Do you know?
It was just, it was just Lamar Alternative School.
Okay.
Because
in
we
the
came
80s
out of Lamar,
around here, we had SBH, as was that. And there was classes in some schools, but then there was also like Charleston, Edison, where there was groups that were specifically too bad for the class, I guess, or something,
And so if we look at it, and we had a conversation leading into going live here about a little bit about this, but so you have a detention home where you're going to get educated, but you're locked in, you're there, and you're not leaving. And then you have, of course, your regular high school where at the end of the day, you go home. Alternative schools were kind of that alternative to jail or juvenile, depending on the age and what you did. And so we'd give them second chances to work their way back into regular classroom setting. Some did. Some actually would get in trouble purposely at the very end just because of the small number of kids in the really more intimate one-on-one, 1-on-5, 1-on-10 classroom setting, and they can handle that much better.
They just liked it. So they purposely.
Exactly, and they like the structure, and it, they knew what to expect. And sometimes very large schools can be very chaotic, and
I think that a lot of times when you have bad kids, and I think that maybe the structure at school like that works because there's probably no structure at home. I think kids like structure in general. I think
they need it.
Yeah, I think
they
so.
absolutely need it. They need to know what the boundaries are, because that gives them consistency, and sometimes they're going to push back against them. And if they're doing it the right way, they're questioning it and pushing back and trying to understand why those boundaries are what they are. But in the end, they like to know where the edge of the cliff is. So yeah. So we went right into education. Boy, that's good. That's good.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I haven't seen you in quite some time, and so it's definitely nice to.
Well, I liked it. I like the education. I like the program. The Charleston that I went to, although I will say, of the kids I went to Charleston with, I don't believe a lot came out okay.
Yeah. So it was like a hybrid. Is that what you're saying, Jim? It was a hybrid.
It was. You had
between DH and regular.
Yeah, you had everybody was a probation officer that was like not a teacher.
Oh, so you're pretty close to DH.
You're close, and you could go at any time.
Wow.
So you had to be on probation to be in there, so that you could, if they violated you on probation, they could just take you right to the detention home. So there was no,
Right.
And so it was a very strict school. But the truth is, of that program, when I look at it, a lot of the kids didn't come out okay. There's not a lot of them that came out and didn't go to prison or didn't go. There are, certainly. But there's also a lot that just didn't do anything.
So should we blame those probation officers or teachers like we do today? Like if there's a problem with a kid, it must be the teacher's fault? Or do we kind of say what the kid brought in and the traumas and the
After
background?
the fact, I went to a Harrison Academy in Lorain.
Okay.
And that was more like your OWE.
Yes. Yeah,
And I think those things are missing in the schools now. Because that was
Agreed.
they don't have body shop no more, or welding, or all those different trades that school, and that was where those bad kids went most of the time, or the ones that not even bad, just the kids that just had no interest. Yeah, they just had no interest in the other stuff.
So I think a lot of times there's that intellectual challenging that some kids and students enjoy, and there's others that love to put their hands on stuff and see how they can manipulate the world around them through their physical appendages, if you will,
yeah,
versus through their mental. And we have to understand that college is not for everybody, because not everybody is intellectually capable. It's just there are people who go to college and say, what am I doing?
Right.
Like I want to build. I want to, you were a carpenter. I mean, you like to see the physical results of your efforts, your knowledge, your creativity.
Oh no, I was a carpenter because I had a wife and kids, and they needed to eat.
Well,
I mean, that's why I was a carpenter.
That's fair.
And my dad was a carpenter.
Okay.
And my grandfather was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Well, my great grandfather was a carpenter. And it was just kind of ran in my blood. I'm good at it, just naturally, and I could make money at it. That's basically why. But I do love doing it. I'm not just joking when I say that. But but the truth of the matter was, as a young man, because my dad was a carpenter and the life he was living, I wanted to be anything but a carpenter.
Right.
But when I had to put food on the table, I had to do what I had to do.
Absolutely, and that's something that being a parent can change you very quickly.
Real quick.
Yeah, and some people handle it really well, and it gets them back on track, and others they can't.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, that is definitely. But I think those work programs, those building maintenance classes that they had at Harrison. I mean, because Harrison, that group of people that were in Harrison, they all work. They all most of them are in construction. You know what I mean?
Body shops have been
whatever it is. Yeah, they're doing those things. They're not. You know what I mean? It's not like Charleston, where those kids all kind of went the wrong way, but they weren't offering us anything but discipline in there. Right. You know what I mean? There was nothing else there. Yeah. So sure. I would like to see more of the Harrisons. I've said that I've said something to the Boys and Girls Club here that, I get aggravated. They do beats and stuff they have all the kids in there, and they have all these computers, and they let them do beats and stuff after school and stuff. why not teach them how to frame a wall or, wire up an outlet or, I mean, why not? I mean, it's better than beats. I mean,
yes. Well, and the irony of that statement is I just left this morning, the Boys and Girls Club, to see what they're doing, hear from them, find out how we help fund, we appropriate money in the state budget to support these efforts for after school programs for kids that can't get what they need at home, their home life, and maybe they need some extra tutoring, and they actually have some pretty good programming going at the Boys and Girls Club now. Yes, the game room is pretty slick and sweet, and you wonder, like, is it just go there and game and hang out and chill, or are they getting anything more than the ability to play games? And I would say yes, they had a the summer program is a financial literacy. They have a career readiness thing. I mean, they're really trying to get some programming in there that blends with it, so it's not all stick, not all carrot kind of thing. And the kids get some of that structure they need and some tools that they're going to need. If they go off and get a job, they're going to need that financial literacy and how to.
Yeah, I mean, even if you taught them how to wire an outlet or things like that, even if you don't do that the rest of your life.
Yep.
How much money do you save when you want to replace a ceiling fan or
the little stuff, right? And now, honestly, electricians, carpenters, they won't come out for the little stuff. Plumbers, they're like, no, I'll come out. I would rather make my money. It's not worth it.
I don't like it. Or they want a lot of money to
for sure.
One of the two.
For sure. Which, with those skill sets, you're making a lot of money because you're doing something that a lot of other people don't know how or can do.
Right. Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would like to see more than that points program and stuff. And I think the points program did me good. But I might be the only example I can think of anybody that was in that program, honestly. I really don't. I can't think of anybody. I've tried, and that's how while we were sitting here, and I really can't even think of it. Because I was going to say I liked that program as you were coming in. I really was what was in my head.
Right.
And I started trying to think about anybody that came out of it better off, and I don't think anybody did.
Right. I had a couple kids that I can still remember, and I took just a little side note. I took or side story, I guess, if you will. So I taught and I coached, and so we had to have our CDL, and then we're also making pennies, like, I don't know, $19,000 for a salary or whatever it was. So any extra money we could get as a teacher, we're going to sign up for those. And I remember the principal comes to me, Walter Balderack, and he says, hey, if we'll pay you if you'll be the adult monitor on the bus when we run our kids, our alternative school kids, to their homes.
Okay.
And that way the bus driver can feel safe and And so I did that, and trying to keep them in orderly and keep the bus orderly in there. But one of the things that I saw was, I grew up. We grew up through some tough times in the 70s, we had the economy and the inflation and the oil prices and everything. A lot was going on, and when your parent loses a job, all of a sudden you start to realize, like, where you're at.
Your parents?
Yeah, so my mom we had 5 kids, mixed family, and my dad got laid off or whatever, and so he's painting houses, he's doing whatever he could do. We're on free and reduced lunches, garage sale clothes, puff rice, powdered milk and it was tough for a short time. And I thought, man, all these other Amherst kids, they're just loaded and they're doing well and parents are fine. And then I went on this bus, right? And I saw some of these kids living in the Vadio and other areas of the district that were really poor.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, I had it pretty damn good.
Right.
I had it pretty good.
Dad was hustling and doing his thing.
And he was, and I always joked, I'm like, as soon as I get some money, I'm buying a new car so I never have to crawl under another one and fix it with my dad, or rip a rusty muffler off, or switch an engine out of a Pinto and put it into another rust bucket Pinto. But you know what? My parents taught me how to grind, and my mom was a Marine, so I learned how to take a hit too. And because she'd lay into us if we were bad kids, and we're talking about bad kids. So sometimes, the stick and the carrot, she'd love us when we were doing it the right way, and she would let us have it when we weren't. And, young kids that's how they learn, right? That's how they maneuver through and try to figure things out.
Sure. Yeah.
They need to know that there's consequences for what you do. And then if you do it the right way, you're going to see a lot of success and a lot of love and a lot of positive things come out of it. And sometimes family life doesn't get both those.
Yeah, that's good. So you were crawling under engines and stuff just like me, huh?
Oh,
no kidding.
Yeah. And learning how to do things. And it was the best. Honestly, I would not trade my upbringing. Well, maybe I would, being a loaded billionaire's kid where I could. But honestly, I don't think I would have a perspective I have today.
You're not you, then.
I wouldn't be me, and I'm, there's a lot of mistakes in life that I've made just trying to figure out how to handle different situations or different people, different opportunities or what have you. And we're always going to make those mistakes, and you just try to learn from them and, figure out how to navigate relationships and professions and jobs and opportunities and what have you. So, but the nice part is they showed me how to be resilient and to bounce back after, setbacks and, people wronging you, and you're like, you could let that just dig at you, or you can say, well, there's good people in this world and there's bad people in this world, and, forgive and forget.
Yeah.
The hard part is forgiving. The really hard part is forgetting.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughters had a pretty good upbringing, pretty good. They I'm not rich by any means. I don't have lots of money. They didn't have a silver spoon by any means, but they had a good life compared to what I had.
Oh, sure.
Going on.
Same here.
So, I mean, quite a bit. But when she went to work for the Nord Center, my daughter, for some reason, wants to go save everybody. I don't know.
That's a good thing. Come on. We need some of those. We need people out there that are not all about themselves.
But she's driving around with these people, and she has to go to their houses and stuff. And she calls me up, and she's like telling me all these stories, and it's like, wow, how bad it is there, and this and that. I'm like, I used to live there.
Yeah. You've lived it.
I lived right there, that same building. That's where I lived. And but it's weird though. You see it and you realize, you don't realize till you get older. It's just like my mom. I thought she was just ridiculous, when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And now I go, God bless her that she was able to, keep on me and thank God. You know what I mean? That's how I see it
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely.
So when you got into the politics, were you retired already?
Okay. So, let's go back. So I did 3 years in Texas.
Yeah.
And married a college, sweetheart, and met her in college, and beautiful young lady who we thought, man, this is gonna be great.
Did your wife do keg stands?
No, it's not that I'm aware of.
There's a lot of keg stands going on at Bowling Green.
Yes, no doubt. She was in a sorority, and I was in a fraternity. So, we kind of bumped into each other, actually over doing some summer courses. We were both trying to get some summer courses out of the way, work our way, and I met her and thought we were going to raise kids, and, Catholic boy I am, like, what do you do? What's your job? You go work and you have kids, and, that's just life, right? That's how we're supposed to do it. And she's like, I think I don't want to have kids anymore. And I want to try Hollywood. I want to try to make it in the movie industry, and so I loved her, and I was going to try to make it work, and then I said, oh hell, I'm done. And then of course my Catholic family, uncles and everybody's like, you made that commitment, buddy, get your butt out there and suck it up.
Right.
And I have to laugh because her and I talked after we got divorced and everything. She's like, I had to do something to convince you to walk away, because I loved you too much to see you go without what you wanted in life, and which was a family and kids and everything. And so I respect the hell out of her for that. We ended the marriage as friends, very good friends. And we went on, and then I left and came back to Ohio. And I said, am I going to teach, or do I actually want to make money and be able to hang with my friends and, go out with them and have money to do that? And as an educator in your first few years, it's just so hard.
Yeah.
To actually have anything. And so I left and went into business, and went to work for an architectural engineering firm. Went to work for a vice president. He took me under his wing, and he said, help me teach all these architects and electrical engineers and what have you, how to build high definition facilities in the broadcast entertainment area. So
Oh, no kidding.
Okay,
I didn't know that.
It was amazing couple years. And then he's like, hey, I'm going to go to Chicago with another company. I'm kind of in negotiations, because he was a big shot and he was super smart, super successful. And the other design firm wanted to pick him up. And he's like, come with me, come to Chicago. And I'm like, man, I just got back to Ohio. I just got back to seeing my parents. And now you're at an age where you really enjoy them, respect them, and love them even more than you did.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
And I wanted that relationship with them. And I wanted to be around. I was gone for a few years, and I'm like, family's important. And so the funny part is I ended up going to work for a production company, and I did that in management. I was in management for a few years.
What kind of production?
So if you remember, I don't even know if they're around anymore. They were Kinko's at the time. Yeah. So I was managing a Kinko's, and they were just basically, we did print production in the back end, and then we had a storefront on the front side. And so you'd have small numbers coming in the front door, but you'd have big numbers going on the back door. And
we did a lot of prints from there.
Yeah, I really loved managing people, training them, getting them, in a position to be successful. I love the P&L. Like, I could sit down and just love diving into finance numbers, and I never did that. But I just truly enjoyed it. And the irony of it is my oldest is at Bowling Green in finance, and he just loves finance and numbers. And so I don't know if it's just something I never acted on. But yeah, and then 9/11 hit, and I said, man, friends of mine are 30, my age, 30, 32 at the time, and I'm not in the military. Decided not to go into the military. And
you never were in the military?
No. That's kind of a funny story. If you got time for that one,
sure, let's
do it. So my oldest, my two older siblings went in the service. My mom went through the Marine Corps. She was a Lorraine girl. She grew up on the east side. No, sorry, that'd be the west side. My apologies. She grew up on the west side. And her dad worked in the mill. And she had two younger brothers. And one went to Vietnam. The other went to a lot of Pink Floyd and Grateful Dead concerts. And and so she went into the Marine Corps. So did he later. And came out of the Marine Corps, met her first husband, and, go through that. But came back to Lorraine area and met my dad in Amherst. And they hit it off, and they had three more kids, I had two more siblings underneath me. So there's 5 of us. And so now I got mom and dad. Dad went in the Army, and mom went in the Marine Corps, and they just did their time and got out, and then my oldest brother decided to go in the Marines. His natural dad, his biological dad went in the Marine Corps. That's where my mom met him. So he went in the Marine Corps. My other brother went in the Army. And then it was my turn. And so that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Sure.
So I'm looking at it's Army or go work at Ford or Nordson or something like that, because I can't afford college. And so I'm trying to figure it out. And this is, you got to remember, I graduated in 87. I'll age myself a little bit here. And tech was starting, communications, and you were starting to see the internet get moving. Really not what it was quite yet.
There was computers everywhere.
There were computers that can connect to each other, and now not just professors and the government agencies knew how to talk to them.
Right.
And the GUI system came out, so now people can actually not have to read code to do it. And
right.
And so I'm like, I'm going to look at the service, but if I'm going to go in, I'm not going to do like that. I'm just going and be a grunt and spend a couple years and come back out and go, okay, I have really no skills from there except for to be disciplined and, And so I was doing some research, and I'm like, the Air Force. Oh, look at that. They got comms, they work at satellites, they do all this stuff. I'm thinking, this is great. And I remember coming back, and I waited till my brother was home, my oldest, was at the dinner table, and I come in, and I'm like, all proud of myself. I'm like, I think I'm going to go in the Air Force. And my oldest brother, who I just idolized, still do think highly of him, he just starts laughing like hell. And he's like, oh my God, that's the Boy Scout. So you can't go into that. And I was so disappointed that he was make fun of, and that's older brothers, that's how we are. That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure I did that kind of nonsense to my younger siblings. And I'm like, okay. And at first in my head, I'm like, I looked it up. That's a real branch of the military. That's not the Boy Scout.
Yeah, right.
You know. So I said, well, okay, if I'm not going to go there, there's nothing else out in the service I want to get into. Nothing was going on really overseas, so no really demand for it. And then I went to community college, and was the Lorain County Sheriff currently just got elected. Him and I were high school buddies, and so we would DJ on the weekends. I would teach martial arts during the nights, and then I was working and going to school during the day at different jobs. So I worked at Kmart, if you remember the old Kmart, and receiving. I would hustle whatever I could to make money to pay for school and just to do something. And I realized I got to do more than just what I was doing. I even worked at a golf course, 30 hours a week. I was plowing some serious time into trying to make it. And went to BG, yeah. And then from there, you already caught you back up to where we're at. But it's a funny story. And to be honest with you, I tried to get in the military 2 times after that, and each time the Air Force was like, "We don't need you."
Really?
And the third time I tried.
And you only wanted the Air Force.
Well, yes, but when 9/11 hit, I was switching jobs, and I said, well, maybe I should, go do my patriotic duty. Maybe this is the reason, and this happened, and so I went over to Brook Park. I think it was Brook Park, where they had the PSYOPs unit for the Army, and I was dating my current wife, and I came back and I said, hey, I think I need to do this. But I was like 32 years old or whatever it was. And I said, I need to do this. I think I'm going to look at the PSYOPs and go into the Army Reserve. And she's like, I'm not going to be an Army wife. And, so you can go to the Army or you can stay with me. And I went, I don't think I'm going to do much better than her. And I don't know what's going to happen to me in the Army. So she won that battle, I thank God for that. Not just because that unit was one of the hardest hit by IEDs and other snipers and what have you as they were going through during that war, and then also she's been just an amazing friend and partner, and we have 2 kids. And they're probably amazing kids because of her. So, it all works out. Things work out.
Your neighbor Brandon signed up
Yeah.
after 9/11 happened.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few
he was
people
just
did.
coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Brandon has always had he's a trivia nut and an Army nut and a military nut. Like he's always known all those things.
Yeah.
He was the first person I even ever heard of Osama bin Laden. He was a lot younger than me.
And he knew it.
Yeah, he knew. I heard of Osama before 9/11 because of him.
Right.
That's just always who he was. But he was overweight coming out of high school, and then he came to work for me, and he lost, I think he got down to 200 pounds, but he was close to 300 coming out of high school. Yeah, he was a big boy coming out of high school. Yeah. And once he got down low enough, and after 9/11, he went and signed up, and he come back from the military. I think he was 175. He was he had a little six-pack and stuff.
You're going to sweat a little bit. Over there, you're going to sweat it out a little for sure. Wow.
I never went in because I just figured they're just too. I never was good with authority, and I figured it'd be dangerous for me to even mess with.
Yeah, you remember the old movie Stripes? You'd been doing a lot of push-ups. There have been a lot of push-ups being done.
And my dad got kicked out of. He was kicked out of the Army, I believe. And then he signed back up for the Marines, and he got kicked out of there because they found out he was already kicked out of the Army after the fact. And he's got all kinds. Well, he didn't get kicked. He got kicked out, but he went AWOL, and he got in a bunch of trouble. I'm probably not very far from my dad, so I probably wouldn't have done as well with authority. Yeah. And so I just stayed away from. I figured they're too bossy. I'm just not messing with it.
Yeah. Some of those who need it most don't go, right?
I would love to have been there, though. I would have loved to have served, but I was always nervous that it wouldn't work out in my benefit to do such a thing.
I'm very grateful for those who have, and to be honest with you, people, I have bills that support those are our families, veterans, military. I'm very engaged with them, and they're kind of surprised that I'm on the Veterans Caucus, and I say, well, you know what? I didn't serve, so it is my duty to serve those who did. So that's always been kind of my motto, my goal for why I do what I do around the veterans.
What bills have you personally stuck
So,
on?
man,
Because you're in the House. For people that don't understand, because I got some just randoms that listen. The House writes the bills, and the Senate passes the bills. That's pretty much how it goes.
Well, yes and no. The House starts almost all budget bills.
There you go.
So all our major budgets start in the House, and then they go over to the Senate. The Senate works them. But you can be a senator and you can create your own, initiate your own bill, and then it comes over to the House, and the House has to hear it and maybe adjust it, fix it, leave it alone, whatever the case may be, let it die in the House, which...
and that's when it says SB, because it's a Senate bill.
Exactly. HB, House bill, SB, Senate bill. And, and we used to joke, or at least I used to joke, I used to call it the Senate of No. Like KNOW and NO. And they were the Senate of No because they knew everything about, what bills should look like and what the language should be. And they said no to just about everything that we sent over there, including my veteran bill that would honor Gold Star families. And I had a student at Mr. Daniel Hunter, and he lost his life in Kandahar, and his mom, she's just amazing, amazingly strong woman to lose your son like that. And one of the Veterans Associations honored her with a Gold Star Family Honor Remember flag with embroidered. And I saw the look on her face, and I said, I will work on this bill as long as it takes. And I just got off the phone yesterday with a Republican who's debating whether to joint sponsor the bill, this GA, because I've done it for the last 3 GAs, and we have voted it out of the House unanimously. Sometimes I think that a couple of those members that voted for it really didn't like the idea of honor. Remember, but they weren't going to vote against Gold Star families. But we had a Navy SEAL that was the chairman of the Senate committee who just said, I don't like the color, it triggers me, and we're not doing anything with it. It's going to die here in the Senate. No to your bill. So the Senate of no. And so we do have gatekeepers in government that does that kind of stuff.
No, we know that. We're really aware of that for sure.
Yeah.
And you're like in the House is pretty conservative anyways, right? Isn't it mostly Republican?
Yeah.
In Ohio? So you're in the fire all the time, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm in the minority. I'm in the minority everywhere I go. It seems like. But yes. So I would say that the word conservative has changed. I wouldn't label the Republican Party conservative anymore.
Oh, I would agree with that.
I think that there are conservative Republicans, and most of them that I'm friends with will say to me, "Well, it's not my party right now. The party's not my party. I'm a conservative for these fiscal reasons or these social reasons or whatever." But they just believe that the party has become a party of one instead of a party of Republican conservative members.
That's how you guys see it?
No, that's how they're telling me, the conservative Republicans who are frustrated with their party, because they believe that their oath is to the Constitution.
Well, the Republican Party,
not to a president or a leader of the
Republican Party today definitely doesn't match the Republican Party of the 90s. Yeah. I will agree with that. Yeah. I would say that Donald Trump and his party at this point duplicates more of Clinton's party than it ever, in my opinion. That's what I see.
Explain. What do you mean by that?
That's just the way it is. I mean, in Clinton's days, he was the one killing the immigration. You had Bush going, we need the immigrants to do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. You remember him saying it. Pissed me off when he said it. I remember him saying it.
Sure.
So now all of a sudden it's just switched, and honestly, the union's backing that Republican Party a lot more than they ever were. So I think a lot of that is switching for some reason.
So do you think that those who are in the party have switched? Or is it because the ideology of both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party has drifted?
I think everything went left. I think the Democrats went way left, and I think the Republicans went left.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay.
I think that, and to me, that puts Republicans more in the middle. And I'm not talking left on the union, but I mean, when it came to obviously the transgenders and stuff, this stuff is really sticking in people's craw. They don't like it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely a very, very challenging issue if you're a very conservative person who believes, hey, it's straight man, straight woman, family unit.
Oh, I'm not that person.
But I mean, that's there are those.
They exist. But I'm definitely not that person.
Yeah.
But I don't like when we change for them, for somebody else. Like, nobody changes for my way of life.
Huh?
I feel like it's okay. Whatever you want to do, just do it. I don't care. My mother's married to a woman. I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm not saying as a child, as a teenager, I didn't have some issues and it like messed with me a little bit. But today, I'm okay with it. I'm glad that she was married. I'm actually, when they allowed marriage, I thought, thank God. Because if something ever happened and they've bought a house together, they've got this land together, they've got, I mean,
visiting in the hospital,
all those things. Yeah. So I was glad that was able to be done. But when I say that, like, I mean, the changing of the bathrooms or, things of that effect, it just, I mean, let people be who they want to be. That's fine. But don't ask me to change or, that's all I care about, really.
And I think that we don't do a very good job of remembering that we have to respect everyone's freedoms to be who they want.
Agree.
And if you want to be a racist piece of shit, you have the right to be it until you start infringing on other people's rights to live their lives and find their happiness.
You're old enough probably to remember when they had the Ku Klux Klan marching in downtown Cleveland.
Yeah, and
that was okay.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, as much as I don't agree or find that disgusting that you would believe that another human being is lesser because of their skin or because of who they love or their gender. I hate to say this, I just believe they have the right to express themselves in a controlled and safe way. And that market of ideas should allow for people to say, I agree with that or I disagree with that. I think it's abhorrent or,
it's horrible. I agree that it's horrible. I remember when it happened. I thought, how in the hell could they allow that to happen? Right. But then I go, I mean, I guess they have their rights, I guess, but I don't think you'd see that today. I don't think.
Well, they're still marching in Cincinnati. That's a favorite locale, and
Are they doing that in Cincinnati? Mm-hmm. No kidding. Yeah.
And we even had a group of Nazi sympathizers, which
Columbus. I did see that. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
And it's the groups are kind of maneuvering. These white supremacists are kind of maneuvering in and out of different entities, and that's a problem. But we have organizations and entities and groups that are really dysfunctional for society, and those are the ones that promote violence, promote hate, promote.
The Democratic Party, you mean?
Well, it could be.
I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, Jimmy, if you've got examples that I absolutely
I feel
say
like
we should get rid of it.
I honestly feel like there's too much of it today, and I do believe 100% that we're seeing more of it on the left than we are on the right. Yeah. On the national level, not so much local level. I don't think I see that on the local level.
Sure.
But on a national level, I don't know if it's like it's almost like I feel like they're like, I'm gonna be against whatever Trump's, and then Trump moves into your station, and you go, well, okay, I'm going over here. That's how I feel like what's going on.
And that happens a lot of times on both sides of the aisle. I think,
absolutely.
And I believe that. The MAGA movement and the group behind getting Donald Trump elected have recognized that they have the money and the microphone right now to take issues that only impact 0.002% of the population and make that the center of conversation, discussion, and because we believe in protecting all people's rights, we have to go fight that battle all the time. So it looks like we're just promoting that group over everybody else. And we're forgetting about others that are doing it the right way.
Okay, but
going to work,
But why do you have a Gay Pride Month? But you have a Veterans Day. I mean, to say that there's an overcompensation that's going on. Right. And then when people talk about reparations or whatever, they talk about that a lot. that to me is absurd, because I certainly didn't. I had nothing but friends that were every color. I grew up in Lorraine. We were all
international city. For sure.
We grew up. But I mean, why would I have to pay him? I mean, he probably owes me money. The one, a couple of them, because they're friends I loan money to or something.
Well, I think of the Pride Month. We have so many. I mean, you just pick out what you want. We had Nurses Month. We have, Teachers Appreciation Week. We have, First Respond. I mean, there's so much of that. And the last time I checked, somebody may fly a pride flag, on their property during that month, or whatever.
You know what happens? You know what's happened? Cedar Point Pride Day. Cedar Point has Pride Day. Guess what day?
I have no idea.
Father's Day. Don't ever take your dad there on Father's Day.
Did not know that. Wow, interesting. Well, I mean, if your dad and his partner are your parents, then maybe they'll feel a sense of inclusion, right? They'll feel a sense of inclusion.
So.
I don't.
I had a friend that went there. He worked with Brandon.
Yeah.
And he worked for my company back in the day, and he went and took his dad to Cedar Point on Father's Day. And he'd come back and he goes, I'm never going to Cedar Point again. He goes, everybody's freaks. They're wearing these little shorts. He's like, and I'm like,
because it's different. Yeah, for sure.
But me, I already knew because of my mother and her friends that, that's what it was that day. And I'm laughing at him, It's
one day to go find a date. I don't know. Maybe find a partner.
Well, I just don't. I mean, they make too many things. I guess that's where I think people fight back about, because that's what you hear about.
Yeah.
And you hear about the racism. To say Trump, like the big one is Trump. They say he's a racist. But the man has done more for the hip hop community, or with the hip hop community, than any other politician that's ever been out there.
The parties are fun, I guess. Just as
it's
Diddy.
Wild.
I don't know. Maybe he's into that. I don't know. Like I don't know what's in his heart.
Yeah, no,
I just
nor do I.
kind of go off of shithole countries are only the ones that are black. South Africans are the only white South Africans are the only ones that are persecuted and deserve to be in America.
Well, I mean, they are
refugees.
Murdering the farmers, the white farmers.
They're murdering a lot, and it's also a very small number. That are.
It didn't look like a small number.
Well,
I mean, they showed a lot of dead people there.
Then guess what they're doing? They're doing a damn good job of marketing a message.
It could be.
And I think both sides do it. I think it's horrible. I think both sides are very intentional about taking issues and making Trump out to be racist, or Democrats out to be whatever.
If they thought whites were killing black South Africans, okay? Mm-hmm. Nobody in this country would bat an eye or say it was a bad thing to say. That's the aggravating part, because there's a double standard.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, there are black South Africans that are killing white farmer South Africans.
Sure.
If we said it opposite of that, nobody in this country would complain that we said it, but it's racist because you said it that way.
Right.
But it's just the facts. The facts are the facts.
And I think you should be able to say those facts.
Absolutely.
But I think if you put a focus and you say, well, there's a lot of black
but
Africans
they put it
dying,
and
so we should allow them to find refuge here. I think if you're brown or black or what have you, you are going to have a harder time under this administration being accepted.
No, I think it's if you're a terrorist, you're going to have a problem. The problem
we got citizens that are not terrorists being sent over to El Salvador and the places.
I understand it, but how do you know? Because they didn't vet them coming in.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? I mean, what's the argument for not vetting them coming in?
How did we vet over the years? What's our history on vetting?
We've always tried to vet.
Well, what do you mean by that? Like, how did we vet?
As they come in, you know who they are.
Do you have TB? That's it. Is your name German sounding? Let's make it American sounding, or Irish sounding. We'll take letters and we'll move it.
I don't think it's that simple to get a green card. If it was that simple to get a green card, they wouldn't be running across the river. Come on.
Well, that's because we've changed it. I'm talking about our immigrant ancestors that came over. They just arrived on a boat, and as long as they didn't have a sickness or illness, they were.
But there wasn't terrorism like there is today. That's a different animal.
Depends on which religion you were.
When you watch, you have to admit, when you watch all those people that they show coming across the border during Biden's term, they're all servicemen age. Every one of them. You don't see a whole lot of families. You didn't see a lot of women. That's what we show. Now you
So
can
who's
say it's
showing
good
that?
marketing.
Who's
You could
showing
say
that?
it's good
Who's
marketing,
showing
but
that?
they're still there.
Yeah, but who's showing that? Like,
You could call it good
yeah.
marketing, but it's still a video of something that actually happened. It's there. It is there.
Absolutely.
I mean,
but sometimes there's just so much information coming in, we just will take whatever aligns with our viewpoints. If I want to believe that families and children are trying to escape gangs and massive violence, that they should have a right to come over. And so I'll see immigrants that way. And then others who maybe have a problem with any immigration coming in from the southern border they're all terrorists, they're all males, they're all people who are going to compete for my job or take my girlfriend or.
And there's
do those
another,
kind of things,
as we were talking
So think
about it, there's another thing. That's a Clinton belief was that, a Clinton as a union backer, a Democrat Party sits on the union side. How does the union sit on that side and defend illegals coming in that are doing those jobs? And to say they're not is just an absurd.
No, they are.
They are absolutely doing.
They're doing any job they can. They're doing any job that an employer will pay them for.
My sister is in Myrtle Beach. She just built a house, and I was in her development.
Where there is no unions, by the way.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But there is no anything. There's no other than Mexicans. There's no electricians, plumbers, excavators. It didn't matter who they were. They were all Mexicans, all of them. Same thing happened in Avon when they built those apartment buildings over there. The excavators, electricians that came in and built those apartment buildings, they were all Mexican. And there was unions here.
Yeah.
I was a union contractor. I stopped in to look at them to give them a price, and I looked around and went, never mind.
So I think you just pointed the finger to the problem. It's the contractors who are choosing to put hand jobs to non-citizens and union or non-union members. And I would ask why.
I would argue that.
Why would they?
I would
Why would they
argue
choose
that if
that?
you gave them a simpler path to citizenship, they would just come in and work for a decent wage.
Yeah.
Why would they work for less if you could give them a simpler path to citizenship?
Because the peso is worth way less than a dollar, and so if they can get American dollars, they're going to bring them back to the.
Sure, I get
to
that.
their-
I get
yeah,
that.
back to Mexico.
But if you can get more, you'll get more. So
sure,
I mean, if you give them the path to go, like in Vegas, they have a lot of guys will work full payroll, and they're all. And it's a scam. They're all doing payroll. They're on W-2s, this and that. They just don't care if they get their taxes back.
Right.
Claim zero or whatever. And there's 20 Jose Rodriguez's or whatever they are there.
Yeah.
Or Jose Lopez or whatever.
Right.
They all have the same card. You know what I mean? They're all paying it all. And they don't care. As long as they got a check, they can go cash. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But they make more money that way.
It's better than what they're coming from, for sure.
But why not just simplify the process coming in? Why not work on that? It would be way easier
Yeah.
I
agree with you.
To put people in a building and allow them to run through and figure out who they are than it would be to watch the borders, I think, in my opinion.
So I think the border is very leaky and it needs to be closed up a little bit better. And I think that allows for a process to happen. I think a process has to be in place that allows for asylum and for people to come into the United States. But I also think there needs to be a process to remove them from the United States if they haven't shown that they want to be a citizen here, a productive American citizen that understands that our freedoms and our laws pertain to them as well. So I get pushback on my side for this, but I believe it. I firmly believe we anybody that comes across the border that's not born here American citizen gets fingerprinted, gets eye scanned, facial recognition, and they're given a social security number on the spot. And they have to let us know where they're heading. And then now, if there's an issue and you're not a law-abiding citizen, and I'm not talking you got a traffic violation because you're still trying to figure out the traffic laws. I've driven in Europe, and my God,
But if you
I
do
probably
a social
broke so many
security
laws.
number, are you an instant citizen then?
Well, here's my thought. That social security number has to be supplied for anybody that's working for that contractor or anybody else. And then the government can say, okay, you have this person on the payroll, and we can see what you're paying, who you're paying, and it's not under the table. It's not cash under there. It's not illegal. And these, I blame.
I love it. I think that's a great idea. Why aren't we doing that?
I don't know, because I'm not the president right now. So I'm working on it. No,
Right
I'm
now?
kidding. I'm not kidding. Right now, I'm not. Yeah, too old to even start thinking about that nonsense. But
I don't know. Look how old they are.
That's great. That's a good line.
Apparently you don't get into your
came
78.
back. I threw you a softball. You just hit that baby over the left field fence. Well done, Joe. No, I just think that that's what should happen. And
I agree. I 100%.
And I don't care if you have a kid over here, because many Americans have kids and are poor parents and poor dads and are doing it the wrong way. I don't think you should be sending the kid and the mother with that person, but you break the law. And just because you have a Social Security number doesn't make you a citizen. You have to go through the citizen process.
Okay.
So I do believe that there is a process that needs to be in place. And I'm going to digress a little bit here, but our public education system was put together because of two reasons. We had to Americanize citizens to what it means to be an American with freedoms and democracy and civic engagement. And that was the first part. The second part is we needed more skilled workers.
I was told that Rockefeller was building factory workers. That's what I was told.
That's exactly. Well,
Rockefeller put together an education system to build factory workers. Well, that's what I have always been told.
Again, I think we take an issue or an incident which is probably accurate. That's what he wanted, and he was definitely a rubber.
And quite frankly, I don't think that you, as a worker, you can have Brandon's a perfect example. He just wants to work and go home. He doesn't ever want to be the boss. He wants to enjoy his life.
Sure.
You can have a wonderful life that way in America, and that's great. That's the way it should be.
You can.
And I'm okay with that.
And I think, though, and this goes back to our union, we can jump back onto the union stories, but that's why I think unions are so important right now, because unfortunately greed is extremely corrosive and corrupted. And
in the unions, you mean?
No, just greed in our capitalist system. Our capitalist system is set up so that if you're greedy, you can do really well. And even if you're not greedy, you can still do well.
We've had some issues in our carpenters union. We had a guy that was selling coins or something like that. There was some kind of deal that went on back. This was 20 years ago or something.
We had a coin gate down in the State House too.
Did you?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Jesus, man. But the unions are definitely, I think they are needed. I love that Ford stood the line for $50 an hour. I thought that was the wonderful, like everybody like going, oh, that's ridiculous. It's like, it's really not. It might sound ridiculous to you in Lorain County, maybe, possibly, but I promise you, $50 an hour sounds right to me, especially for the price of the vehicles, how much they've increased compared to wages.
Sure.
You know, when I first got into the union, I was $24 an hour was journeyman top out.
Journeyman top out
was $24 an hour. It's only about $36 now.
Right.
But the average home price back then was like $112. Now it's $400. You know, a good work truck was $25 new. Yeah. Now it's $65 new. You know, I mean, it's
the materials, supply chain
nothing
costs,
is
everything.
Yeah, them wages are the only thing that are just getting slammed. And I praise Ford for I thought they did a hell of a job, and that's because I am a union. Conservative I am, but I do believe in having unions within a capitalist system, and I think that's a wonderful thing to have.
It's a check. Do you agree? It's a check.
Checks and balances. You got to have them.
It's a check there, and that's why we have to kind of stop monopolies. We have to stop, we have to have fair labor practices, and those are the checks. Gets me a little nervous that some of these are being dismantled. Not just in our constitutional framework, but also in our economic framework. We're getting a lot of these checks dismantled, which makes me nervous and worrisome that we can continue to find success for citizens to want to protect their freedoms. I mean, I don't care what you've done or you've been claimed to have done until you have due process, which is a core tenement. I mean, two of the amendments, Bill of Rights and our amendments to our Constitution are wrapped around that concept.
For our citizens,
right. Well, we got citizens that were being removed.
We have citizens
yes.
There was one or two, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm giving you
accidents
that same, I'm giving you that same
Come on, there was a lot going out.
But do you think that is not an egregious accident? And do you think anybody should be held accountable for that accident? Because that is the core tenement.
If they're a real citizen and they're removed out. Yeah. And it'll get worked out.
So why should they be moved out why should you leave the country until it has been proven that you should be in a prison overseas?
That is a problem.
The British did that to us. The British did that to us.
That's a problem that came on because they allowed too many, and we don't know who's in our country. We just don't know who's here.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous.
Are you willing?
We've had 9/11.
Are you willing to go and have every citizen prove their citizenship through facial recognition, eye scan, and fingerprints.
No, I don't believe in that at all.
I mean, because that's the only way we could do it. And the only fair way to do it is to get everybody on a registry. But who would have control over that besides Elon Musk?
What do you mean? I don't
Like,
understand.
who would have
Why would that be
control
the
over
fair way?
I mean, because then you know if they're a citizen or not.
I mean, there's
do
other
you,
ways to
do you,
know.
Do you look at? I mean, can you look at somebody and go, "Oh, it kind of looks like he's not a citizen"?
Yeah.
Got a little accent. Oh God,
yeah.
please don't say that. Jesus, Jimmy. My God, this is Madhouse bar talk. When you go down that
Stereotypes are stereotypes,
Yeah.
bro.
Oh
That's
my
just
God,
how
that
it
is. And I always try to teach my students, in the classroom that, your behaviors are going to bring about stereotypes. What you do until people get to know you, they're going to go off of stereotypes. Way you look, way you act, way you talk, all those things. So you have to be very cognizant of.
Well, I have a lot of friends that are Muslim too, though.
Yeah.
I have my wife's best friend is Palestinian. They live across the street from us, and they I mean, we love them. We think they're wonderful people. I mean,
just be law abiding. Just treat people with respect.
Yeah, they're wonderful
understand
people.
property
I mean,
rights.
they hate Jews. They definitely hate Jews, but
and there's some
there's a lot of that going
there's
on.
Anti-Semitic behavior in a lot of areas by a lot of different people.
Well, my
People-
wife's maiden name's Bernstein.
There you go.
But they love her, but they hate Jews. They hate Netanyahu is who they hate. Really, is what it is.
Yeah, wow. We really could get deep and dark going.
No,
into
we
that
don't.
whole-
We're trying to talk about the state. We don't. That's all we really care about.
Keep going on Ohio and where
And
we're
this
at there.
gambling?
Yeah,
Is that what we're
gambling.
looking at?
We got gambling going.
Are you
on.
going to vote for online gambling?
Not the way it's set up right now.
What is it set up? How is it set up now?
Well, it's a changing target. Like it's a moving target, a changing bill, moving target.
Yeah, it's like June 2nd. It's supposed to actually go on the floor, right? Or something?
I'm not sure.
I thought it was. But
Well,
okay.
and there's talk of just having some hearings. And then, of course, what goes on in Ohio, and I can't speak for other states and at the national level because I'm not, inside, but in Ohio, there are a few power players, and that's it. And they're going to make most of the decisions on how everything goes, and they're going to let the rest of the General Assembly know that they're the gatekeeper, and this is how it's going to come out. And it's whether because they've been bought off by a certain lobbying group, organization, they have a certain ideology that they
How do we
live
fix
by. We hold them accountable, and we stop gerrymandering, and we put it on the ballot, and they did a great job of screwing up the message and the understanding and the interpretation of what that bill was supposed to be. It failed. Do you remember the initiative that was on the ballot to fix the way we draw up boundaries for our districts, which makes a world of difference.
Why do we have to change it? Explain to us why we want to change it.
Ooh, all right. Let's go down the gerrymandering hole. So gerrymandering is a word that came from Aldrich Sherry, who was he was a Massachusetts elected official who said if we can draw the maps properly, we can make sure that people that support our views are in the majority when it comes to voting. And so they would split and draw and crack and pack and do different things like that to make it so that the majority in each of those districts were always supporting what that his party wanted. And so that concept is done really, really well right now with the computers, the data, the real live data that we get. You can do that. You can take what is a state that is now a right-leaning state,
Make it left.
and you can make it left, which is a problem. And I would say that first and foremost, cheating is a problem. And going against
Are
cheating
you
is a
saying
problem.
2020 might be off?
No, I wouldn't say that it was done that way. I would say that cheating in regards to, well, yeah. If
There was a
if they can-
question about how
if
many
they
votes,
can-
weren't there?
If they can.
You have a serious question about how many votes were in 2020.
Okay, now we're
were
going
cast.
from the maps to the 2020 federal election
Yeah,
or
yeah.
states.
Yeah, federal.
Okay, and are we talking in certain states there were
No,
more
just
cast?
the total votes cast were a heck of a lot more than total votes. Just a simple question, and then we
total
go back.
votes cast were more than the total number that were counted?
No, the total cast of votes were so much larger than Obama's,
Okay.
than Trump's first one, and Trump's second victory. Biden's votes cast
Right.
is like 10%, 15% higher across the board.
Okay, so vote tally or vote cast for him, or just vote cast in general for the entire election? And the reason that's important, and I'm trying to get an understanding of where you're going.
You've never seen that? You've never seen the stats on that?
I have not seen that. I've heard, anecdotal stories of, hey, 10,000 more people cast votes than were registered to vote. Now that's a problem. We have to figure out how that.
I've heard that too, but this is specifically talking about. I thought I had the graph over here, but it was specifically Biden had, I think, 81 million votes total.
Okay.
I mean, Obama didn't have those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
Obama was popular. People
Okay,
love.
so 12 years
Obama.
ago, what was our population totals?
I don't know what they are. I'd have to Google.
I mean, I'm wondering if there's a percent. Think about it, right?
But the thing is,
if we went up 10%,
but how come it dropped back down this time?
Yeah, because people sat at home and they said, I'm not excited and energized about voting for a black woman, half Asian, half black woman from California, and I'm not going to vote for her, so I'm not going to turn out. Our turnout ratio was horrible. Democrats got what they deserved. I mean, we didn't. You're
not a fan of Kamala, I take it.
I think she would have been fine. I don't think she would have been on the top 10 presidents of all time. But I think that being around Biden and understanding kind of how he worked, and he's a career and a consummate politician, legislator, policymaker, he gets it. I don't know how much he gets anymore because he's struggling both mentally and physically, but and I think that was a problem. People were a little.
It was obvious. To
they were,
everybody.
and they were also some who are not playing inside baseball with this whole Democrat, their nominees, the elections, where they just show up and go, I feel pain in my stomach because I'm hungry, and the president's to blame or not, and or. Well, I'm not safe. My schools aren't good. They make decisions based on
for sure.
Emotional, how they feel,
For sure.
not really like, well, let's see here. Who's got a higher IQ? Who's got, whatever. More
you can have
what's
a
resume?
IQ.
What's a resume? You know what I mean? Like they don't. They just go, how do they make me feel? And I'm sorry, but Kamala didn't make people feel good about voting for her.
If so many people died during COVID, why would we have a lesser way more population than we did in 2020?
Well, because
everybody died. The whole country fell apart.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Listen, I spoke to a lot of doctors. They saw a lot of death.
I'm sure
because COVID. Think of COVID like HIV, and this is how it was explained to me one time. HIV doesn't directly kill you. COVID a lot of times doesn't directly kill you. It's the fact that COVID messed your immune system up as well, and prevented and caused your body to be in a condition where other conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, different things like that, were exacerbated, and their health declined because of that. And a lot were elderly. Some children, surprisingly.
It wasn't convenient, though, that it was like when baby boomers were about to die. Like, that wasn't convenient.
We have a lot of baby boomers right now.
Well, wasn't it around that time? Honestly.
I don't know.
That's when people from the 40s and 50s, that's 80 years old or whatever, 70 to 80 years old.
Which is the life cycle. So you're going to die, some
That's
of that.
what I'm saying. It just seems too convenient
Some
to
of
me.
that could be. And let's go back to that messaging, right? Let's go back to, did Dems message that and use that as the
catalyst to get rid of Trump?
Catalyst
Absolutely.
to get rid of Trump.
I agree they did.
Yeah.
I
think that there's a large part of that.
But the part I don't understand is why they blame Biden for everything that Trump did in 2020. Have you noticed that?
That they blame Biden for everything?
They act like he handled the whole COVID thing, and that was all Trump, and everybody pretends Trump wasn't involmed.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right.
Weird.
He did. Trump definitely said it's not a problem, and we don't have to worry about it. I think Trump did very little and could have done more, and I think Biden's administration and states did way too much at times.
Yeah, I didn't like
and so
Amy
what do you
Acton.
do?
I wasn't a fan of Amy Acton in our state.
And I think that super cautious. The Democrats got. We'll be fine. We'll grit it out. It's going to happen. History's over here saying we've gone through these before and beat them. the other part of history says, yeah, but the Black Plague, Spanish fever, and other things have caused massive deaths too. And so it's interesting. I'll give Amy, Dr. Acton, I'll give her a pass in the fact that her Hippocratic oath is to save lives and reduce pain. And if she thinks that shutting down schools or closing out things or doing extra precautions, using masks, whatever, is the way to do that, she's going to do it. She's going to push for that. But socially,
I'm okay with that. But don't go on screen.
Yeah.
When the country needs you to be, or the state needs you to be strong.
Yeah.
And cry about what's going on in San Francisco. You scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You scared the shit out of everybody.
Yeah. And I think that, again, I bet if she had to do it all over, she'd have done differently.
Oh, I'm sure she would.
I think a lot of us would. But I think it's how much precaution. I think there are some serious negative effects of being overcautious that have had a negative impact on the economy, has a negative impact on family and structures.
Can't give away free money.
Some people, educational, there's some stunt, but you know what? Kids are resilient. You know what I mean? You keep them alive.
You say that, but I have a friend that their daughter was like in their junior year.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out. This is a kid that was doing great, and it seems like things kind of went sideways for a while.
Yeah, and they will go sideways for a while, but look at the amount of trauma and amount that you went through and then how you've been able to beat it.
Yeah, but I was always going through it. Life was good, and then your junior year, they just screw you over.
But isn't that what we want? And isn't that what we are so proud of as Americans? The grit, we pick ourselves up by our bootstraps kind of thing. We overcome obstacles and
freedom is what I'm proud of.
Honestly, I am too, but what I'm worried about is certain groups are having certain freedoms and certain groups are not. And I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight for freedom for everybody. And I've told the Democratic Party leadership from top all the way to the bottom, from my locals here at the bottom, all the way up to the state chair. Now I don't mess with the national right now, but I've told them, you are forgetting about a group of people that feel like they're doing it the right way, have done nothing wrong, but just were born white, male, 24 to 40. They're out there grinding out there doing their job. They're going to work. They're a carpenter. They're work at the automotive plant, whatever. And they're made to feel like they're the problem, or they're not worthy, or they're not.
That has happened, but that's a masculinity thing too that's going on.
And I did
that has nothing to do.
That show too.
Yeah, it's. I don't think that's all just because you're white. I think there's a more of like a masculinity thing that they're taking away from us.
And there are some black and brown constituents have said to me the same thing. Like, you can't be. And my thing is you can be masculine, you just can't be a jerk. Like, you can't be an ass.
Agreed.
You can be masculine. You could, but it's that. How do you approach other people with your masculinity? And there are outlets. There are constructive outlets that society and our culture, and American culture in particular, especially American culture, have used to allow for that to happen. From sports to.
But what if we told women they can't be feminine?
No. We shouldn't.
The whole world would fall apart.
Yeah.
They would freak out. They'd lose their minds.
I think a lot of women there are a lot of women who say that, hey, I want to be different. I want to be feminine. I want to be recognized for something that men can't do. Childbirthing or mothering or what have you, nurturing or what have you. And I say, well, be who you want to be, but don't be a jerk to other people. Don't be, I'm sorry, don't be an asshole. That's really, really what it comes down to, and so I think we have to be respectful of the people who have that need to show their masculinity, but I don't think we should be. Let's go back. You and I are close in age. Let's go back to a time where two brothers be brothers, right? And boys will be boys, and we're out on the playground, we're on the ballpark, wherever we're at, and we would use slurs and name calling that would demasculate you.
Sure.
Like, oh, you're gay, or, don't be gay or don't be vague, don't be a girl or don't, or your mom is this or, I mean, just all kinds of stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Race,
that was
whatever you could dig at.
Whatever you could figure out, right? And that was it.
And it was funny.
And it seemed funny, because, it was, I think anytime you self-deprecate yourself or your friends or whatever, you think it's funny. And then as long as you understand the relationship and it's cool and it's not, it's not in an evil intent, then we find humor in it, and so I think that we now have made a mistake of saying it's wrong to be masculine or it's wrong to be feminine because we want to okay the not being masculine or not being feminine. And why can't we have both? Why can't
I don't know. I can't figure it out. I think we should.
Right. You talked about your mom marrying. If you want to find your happiness in another man, if I want to find my happiness in another man, have at it. For me, that's not my thing.
Seems like a pain in the ass.
I don't know. Some women will say, I'd rather, I'm married, I've got a female partner because, men are just too difficult to deal with. I don't know. But,
whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Born that way, whatever. But do whatever you want. I don't care.
Do your thing, right?
Just
do your thing.
Ask me to change for you to do that. That's all I ask.
Right. Don't say that I'm less of a person or I'm not.
Correct.
Because I chose a traditional family structure and lifestyle and what have you. And to be honest with you, we should be able to say, that doesn't do it for me without being a racist or being a homophobic or being a transphobic or, what I mean? Like we should.
I can give you an example. When I was single, I was working with a guy and he's telling me about this redhead he's dating. I go, I'm not into redheads. It's not my thing. It's not my thing,
Sure.
Then within 5 minutes of this conversation, he says something about a black girl. And I go, I'm not into black girls. He called me a racist. I go, wait a minute.
No.
I wasn't a racist when I wasn't into redheads, but now I'm into what I'm into. What do you want from me? I mean, that's not my fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not racist. I mean, now if you're like, I don't think black women are on the same level as redheaded women or white women or brown, whatever, then that's probably something you should self-reflect on a little bit more and go, why?
Sure, absolutely.
But to say, you know what? That just doesn't do it for me. Watching a drag show doesn't do it for me. But if somebody wants to go watch one, go do it.
Does that do it for anybody? Isn't that just fun? I think it's just art. I don't think that does it for anybody.
What was the show that we used to watch with, was it Tom Hanks and that other guy, and they would dress up as women so they could get a better,
Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies.
We thought that was funny. Robin Williams being made. I mean, like, we, and so, we've kind of lost our way. And, Dave Chappelle, he's kind of edgy too, but, he really said that we've lost what humor is supposed to be. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves, laugh at our differences, but in the end, just truly respect the fact that people are trying to be themselves and to be authentic. And we can have fun with some things that are different or don't seem right or ask why. And you can't be funny anymore. You can't joke. You can't use certain words in certain
it's got to be rough as a politician. It's got to be worse
in certain ways. And I'm sure you've heard this. It's like everybody, old, straight, Catholic white boys like me, get triggered and offended by stuff. And I'm like, stop. Like, what? Why are we constantly being offended by these things? I'm not a big rap fan. Like, it's not my jive. And then I listened to you. By the way, let's do a short. That was a really good job of a lead music into it. And I'm not into that style of music, but I was like, that was well done. So I don't know who did that, but shout out, kudos to them. If you want to give them a shout out, great. I just was like, wow, that was impressive. The words.
Shout out to AI.
Is that AI?
All AI, made in 15 seconds.
Okay, that's interesting. We could, if you know what, if I didn't have a honey-do list that I have to do before I go give a retirement commendation and then go wake and then to another Democratic Party fundraiser, the night's full. I would love to go down that, and maybe let's do this. Why don't you and I make a point of getting me and another guy that I've been doing a lot of AI with, and let's do an AI show. What do you think?
I'm game.
Talk about AI. Talk about it, how it impacts law, how it impacts entertainment.
J.D.
politics,
Tomlinson
everything.
just went to work for a guy. His whole firm, they're literally taking a picture of the docket. It's spitting out to them what the best case law is, the best case study, the best defense, the best, like they're literally just snapping a photo of it.
Yep.
No need for paralegals anymore.
Now, and they're going to cut out paralegals. They're not going to need as many. However, I was in an AI conference in Chicago, and since we have a moment and we're on this topic, I wanted to go learn as much as I could. I've got an AI bill about deep fakes and not being able to use them to manipulate elections and, basically convince voters fraudulently that somebody is something or somebody is not something and so forth. And I really, truly believe that the most important way to keep a democratic republic with this Constitution intact is making sure that our voters have access to the ballot, that their vote counts for one vote, and that they can make an accurate decision based on factual information about who they're voting for or who they don't want to vote for. And
well, that would be the first time that ever happened.
Well, I bet that has to be there.
I mean, Jesus, they've been lying in commercials for years.
Well, we know that. We're like, oh, yeah, that's...
Well, I'm worried about
AI,
that.
Can you trust your eyes and ears? Can you trust your eyes and ears? No, you can't. I listened to that and thought that somebody actually got with you and created that and did that in their studio and produce that for you. This is a great segue into that Chicago conference I went to. I spent a couple days out in Chicago learning and hearing from those in that space, in that lane, like computer science, AI, professors. The one from Northwestern is wicked smart, Yale background, bullshit. I mean, he's just super wicked smart. And it's Northwestern.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. And he really made it is easy and digestible for most Americans to understand. And that is AI is built on an algorithm that is not about finding factual information. It's about guessing what would be the best answer, most likely answer, or finishing of the sentence if you're looking at the learning modules. It's about what would be the best way to finish that sentence or what would be the most likely answer if you ask that out on the web or into people out there. It's not about finding the only accurate information. So they had done some practice and some studies on that, and AI was creating case law around that question, that docket, that topic, those cases. And those cases that they created were set up to best support and argue for that client's side of the position. That, if you're not a good lawyer and you're just going, oh, it must be a true case out there, I'm going to use it.
Yeah, you're just spitting it out.
I guess there was a big meeting of the National Law Legal Association or whatever it's called, and that's not my lane, so I apologize for my ignorance here. But they had stated that they're looking at setting up rules and ethics around the use of AI in law, and you can be disbarred if you don't fact check what AI spits out to you. And
they're going to make that a standard?
Oh, yeah, they're going to make it a standard. They're like, you can be disbarred if you go to a judge and say, hey, this case, blah, blah, blah. And now the judge has got to go back and research everything that should be.
That became
truth.
The first place that AI, I'm starting to really see a change. I was like, whoa, that's wild.
And a lot of it's behind the scenes. And there's companies, my boy did a study abroad over in Salzburg, Austria, just this past 3 weeks. And he had they did a tour of a company over there in Austria, whatever. But they are creating AI learning modules that are behind a firewall so that other companies and other people can't see what they're querying, what their information, what their answers were, whatever. And so they're creating like basically we'll call it a chat GPT, because that's like Kleenex now for tissues, right?
Sure.
Chat GPT, they're creating that for their company's workers, but it is behind a wall so that that kind of stuff we talked about earlier doesn't happen and nobody has access to it. But so let's do that. Let's put on the books over the summer here. Let's get Matt. I think you'll appreciate him. He is a lawyer, a very good one, and very knowledgeable about AI. And him and I, we meet on it, talk on it, and go to conferences and stuff together. And I think we would have a really nerdy AI time on that. Everybody's like, oh, we want to hear some bar talk, and they're like talking AI. I don't know.
Well, but that's what you do in a bar. You talk about whatever's going on, and AI is what's going on.
And that social component, and of being in a bar, if you will. The dynamic allows for that. And it also, of course, alcohol eases the restraints on what you're going to say and what you're not going to say.
It does.
And it does. I mean, that's what alcohol does. And so
we're taking a beating now. Bars are closing a lot everywhere. And a lot of it has to do with, a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of people are just smoking weed, sitting at home, playing video games and ordering DoorDash.
Which really goes against the concept of why bars were created and pubs were created.
Right.
I mean, think about it. I mean, where did those extremely wicked smart authors of our Constitution and of our government and the Federalist ideas and where did they go besides Madison, who was just under candlelight trying to take all these notes and document them? The rest of the founders, they'd go to the pub.
Yeah.
They'd go to the pub and they'd have a couple pints and they would say, okay, let's hash it out a little bit more here. Let's talk about it. Let's build the relationships of trust, and so that we know where we're coming from, and then work would get done. And they'd go back the next day, probably with a hangover, sweating it out with no air conditioning in the right, and trying to write during the summer, trying to write this out. And so I'll always be a fan of just the ability for people to get together and have that conversation. And even that today is under attack.
Oh, because of social network. But they're having those conversations online, but people are different online than they are in person.
Yes, they are. Oh, so much stuff.
Yeah.
Is said. Those keyboard warriors are amazing. If I'd have said some of the stuff that other people post in a bar, we'd probably be out in the alley behind it.
Yeah.
And it would be
like Aaron Knapp.
Yeah. Ain't that something? Yes. That's a good example. That's another softball over the left field fence. Got you. That's
all right. The only thing I wanted to do was give you one more second.
Yeah.
You were trying to explain to us why that we need to change the mapping, the voting mapping. I just give you 5 minutes for that before we take off.
Sure. So my biggest belief is you want to kind of keep communities together because they usually have consistently the same viewpoints. I don't want to. I mean, I love Lorraine because it's an international city and there's so many different cultures and viewpoints and beliefs and upbringings that it makes it very diverse. Makes it tough. Makes it a challenge to oversee that. But the maps, if you're cracking and packing maps so that you have no chance to put a good candidate up there to win, that probably could be a better candidate, a better legislator, and a better representative, a better advocate for you, who are very similar maybe, but they're in a different party because maybe they lean a little more left and you lean a little more right. If it's set up for the Republican to win in the primary, sometimes that Republican who's in the middle that just leans right loses because it's only a Republican primary and the far right now has a ability to manipulate the election for who's going
prior
to win
prior to
getting to the entire general election.
Though.
And the Democrats the same thing.
Yeah,
we get far left candidates and Congress people in D.C. and in the General Assembly. We'll get way more far left and way more far right than truly are in Ohio. But guess who's making the legislation? Guess who's having the microphone? It's the far left and the far right. And since it's gerrymandered currently for the far right to win majorities, the far right is winning the policy making, and all that's the reason that's dividing the country.
But isn't more of Ohio just far right anyway?
No, I've gone into some counties that are very, very red, And I'm surprised how they're not far right, maybe a little more conservative. Maybe don't see the world the same way maybe a progressive liberal would. Kind of wants things to just be status quo, and that's okay. If that's the way they want their community to grow or not grow, or if that's how they want to see it, fine. The problem is the far right, it has nothing in common with the left, or definitely in common with the far left. And so now there's no way to even get across no man's land. I think
that's not true.
I think 75% of the population is in the middle.
I agree.
And the problem, but what I will argue, and I love pushback by anybody that wants to do this, and to help me understand how this is not the case. 75% may be in the middle of Ohioans, but in elected officials, because of gerrymandering, that 75 is not in elected office. It's the far left and the far right that's in the elected office. They're the ones that are in power, making decisions and having a vote. And the caucus discussion, I'm sure on both sides, is just, it's crazy.
I really don't pay attention to the state stuff. The only thing I've been paying attention to is this case.
You should. $90 billion. That's
should.
our operating budget.
Yeah, I probably should, but I haven't. I'll be honest, honestly.
That's one of 5 budgets. Now, granted, that's
I
federal
vote for
money
you
too.
every time because I met you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the conversation we had downstairs. That was your first election 6 years ago.
Yeah.
When I first got this place.
You did.
And
we came in here right when it was leaving Hanko's, and you were picking it up.
Yep. And that was the first conversation. I liked you. I've always voted for you ever since.
Thank you.
And that's kind of how I do it. If I like a guy, I feel like I'm a good judge of character, but I've never voted right or left. That's not who I am as a person. But I definitely don't believe in government. I would keep out of my business.
Yeah.
Like I don't
That's
want the
my
government.
libertarian streak too. I'm like, government should only be there when locals come to us and say, please.
But I do believe in liberal and local standards.
Yeah.
I do think you want more liberal cities and things like that. But I think your big government, I think you want to allow that capitalism.
A little smaller,
government.
right?
Yeah.
A little smaller in areas. In areas where it can still get done at the state level.
Right.
Like people are like, oh my God, they're going to throw everything back at the states. Well, I think we wouldn't have cared about that if the states weren't so gerrymandered. And not all of them are, but, look.
Or if Joe Biden would have done it.
Yeah, no, I would disagree. But then again, that's why I get in trouble sometimes because, I believe in the Constitution first. So the first letter is a C, and then the second one's a D for Democrat. And sometimes my wife will say, and O's the first letter because, I get really OCD about stuff and I'm like, got to get in and, focus on something or whatever. But I think that you have to be a constitutionalist first, then you can be a Democrat or Republican. And because you have to make decisions based on the rights that the Constitution protects, the systems, the institutions that are set up to protect those rights by separating powers and making each of the 3 branches antagonistic to each other. That's not a bad thing,
It isn't, except for that's like the Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible, people distort it as they use it. You know what I mean? So that definitely happens, and that's always a sad thing.
Absolutely.
But you do want to stick to what you think is the Constitution, and I respect that.
Yeah, and I also believe that you have to listen to all your constituents, and you have to make sure that anything that's done at the government level, if you're doing things the right way and you're not like taking away people's property or personal rights, then the government should stay out of the way and allow you to do what you need to do and to be who you want to be. And, listen, if you want to have guns in your house, have guns in your house. You have kids in your house. Now you're responsible for those kids. Should you be held responsible if those kids get a hold of those guns?
Sure.
That's an argument that I think we have to have. We have to have because that's your job. Like your job is to protect and care for those children, and it really drives me nuts when you don't.
I have a lot of guns, but I have a lot of safes.
Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you should have every right. I think your right should always start with you until you do something that says you don't have the ability and the responsibility to do that. So.
Fair enough, but they do need to figure something better. But that's a whole nother discussion.
We ain't got
so
time
many
for that. This went really well, Jim. I knew I met you before, and like I said, we had a really good first interaction, and I appreciated the courtesy you gave me here today. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Let's do it again.
All right. Peace.
We will.
We're out of here.
Take care. Good. Back on this.
Yeah. That's all.